Welcome to the BioSleep Archives. I am the architect. Tonight, we begin the sequence of deep rest. We turn our focus inward, deep into the quiet architecture of your body. We descend to the lowest center of gravity, the heavy base of the fortress. Listen to the slow, steady rhythm of my voice. Allow the systems of your body to power down, layer by layer, bone by bone, yielding entirely to the stillness. Send your awareness down the long, resting pillar of the spine. Travel past the curve of the neck, drift past the arches of the ribs. Descend through the heavy blocks of the lower back. Sink all the way down into the deepest anchor, down into the dark, quiet pelvic basin. Here lies the foundation of the human structure, the bone known as the sacrum. Visualize this massive triangular shield in your mind. It is a wall of solid calcium, formed slowly in the quiet tide of your past. What began as 5 separate pieces has now fused permanently into one single mass, an unbreakable, immovable stone of alabaster. Feel the sheer density of this triangular wedge. It is thick, it is incredibly heavy. It sits perfectly wedged between the wings of the hips, locking the skeleton into a state of silent stability. All day long, this keystone held the weight of the upper body. It was the central pillar of your stance, transferring the weight of the world into the legs. But now, the work is done. The machine no longer needs to fight gravity. The tension is neutralized. The need for balance is gone. Gravity takes over completely. The sacrum presses downward, sinking, drifting deeper into the soft support of the bed, yielding to the comforting pull of the earth. Visualize the smooth, heavy back of this ancient bone. It is textured with ridges. A line of bone runs exactly down the center, where the structure has melted together, forming a descending line of solid stone. Flanking this center line are the rough landscapes of bone. This is where the thick, woven cables of your back are anchored, the dense ligaments that hold you upright. Focus your attention on these cables now. Feel the tight bands finally going slack. The heavy fibers are melting into dormancy. The woven lattice releases its grip on the bone. The tension of the day dissolves into the void. Move your awareness deeper into the dark tunnels piercing the heavy bone. Smooth, round, protected passageways where the nerves safely exit the spine, like quiet roots spreading into the dark soil of the pelvis. Feel the energy draining from these pathways. The electrical impulses are slowing down, fading into a quiet, rhythmic pulse. The nerves rest safely within the bone, bathed in heavy, warm fluid, protected by the shield. Shift your focus outward to the joint, where the rough edge of the sacrum meets the hip. This connection is not built for motion. It is built for deep stability. Feel this massive joint settling into silence. The connection locks safely into place. There is a total absence of tension in the lower back. The structure is sealed. The fortress is secure. Deep within the center of the bone lies the final canal. Feel the internal pressure begin to normalize. The fluid settles into a calm, dark reservoir. A quiet tide coming to a halt. With every long exhalation, the keystone grows heavier. The bone becomes as dense as lead. It is heavy. It sinks into the mattress. The foundation of the body is now dormant. The base of the spine is a cold, immovable anchor, locking you safely into the earth, sealing the basin in absolute stasis. Your center of gravity is surrendered. The heavy fluid pools softly in the lowest points. The shutdown of the the lower axis is complete. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to lift. There is only the heavy, downward drift into the deep, dark silence. Total deactivation. Total stillness. Deep silence. Move your awareness outward from the central keystone. Travel laterally from the fused sacrum. Here we find the great wings of the ancient fortress, the largest and most superior bones of the pelvic girdle. The ilium. Visualize these massive sweeping structures of bone. They flare outward like the wings of a dormant creature. The wide, expansive upper portions are known as the ala. Feel the sheer breadth of this alabaster shield. It forms the high, protective lateral walls of your core. It is dense. It is incredibly heavy. It is turning to stone. Deep within this flat expanse lies a hidden architecture, a highly vascular matrix of spongy bone, encased within a smooth, impenetrable shell of compact bone. The internal reservoir of heavy fluid is slowing. The microscopic tide within the marrow is coming to rest. The dense matrix settles into a profound stasis. Trace the thick, rugose upper rim of this bone, the iliac crest. This heavy ridge is the anchor for the powerful cables of your torso. All day, it withstands the pull of the woven muscular lattice, the protective abdominal walls, the deep, stabilizing muscles of the back. Now, the tension in these cables dissolves. The woven fibers go completely slack. The crest of the ilium no longer needs to brace against the world. Gravity takes over. Feel the heavy calcium matrix of the crest pressing down, sinking, drifting deeper into the soft support beneath you, yielding entirely to the downward pull. Follow the curve of the bone to the front, to the anterior superior iliac spine, a blunt, heavy projection of solid bone. Let it drop. Let it sink backward toward the earth. Follow the curve to the back, to the posterior superior iliac spine, where the deep dimples rest at the base of your lumbar spine. This ancient joint is locked. Feel the connection where the ilium meets the sacrum, the auricular surface, an ear-shaped plane of thick, unyielding cartilage. This is the sacroiliac joint, engineered for absolute stability. The heavy ligaments that cross this joint are releasing. The microscopic layer of synovial fluid becomes completely still. The articulation locks safely into place. Just below this connection lies a deep, protective curve, the greater sciatic notch. Visualize this deep, smooth indentation in the heavy bone. It is a quiet passageway for the largest nerve in the body, the sciatic nerve. The electrical rhythm of this massive nerve is slowing. The active signals fade into a low, resting hum. The nerve rests safely within the alabaster notch, bathed in heavy, warm fluid, totally undisturbed in the dark. Move your focus to the vast, concave inner surface, the iliac fossa. This smooth, bowl-like depression forms the lateral walls of the pelvic void. It cradles the heavy, quiet organs of the lower abdomen. The hydraulic pressure within this basin normalizes. The internal tide slows to a complete halt. The thick muscles that line this fossa release their grip. The iliacus muscle becomes soft and heavy, melting like warm wax against the cold stone. Below this fossa lies a smooth, defining ridge, the arcuate line. It marks the boundary of the true pelvis, the descent into the deepest, most protected sanctuary of the biological machine. On the outer side lies the broad gluteal surface, crossed by subtle, ancient ridges. The posterior, anterior, and inferior gluteal lines. The massive muscles of your hips anchor here. They are the primary engines of your upright movement. But the biological machine is now in a state of complete deactivation. The engines are shut down. The thick, heavy fibers surrender their tone. The great wings are completely at rest. They do not need to support the column of the spine. They do not need to balance the heavy weight of the limbs. Feel the immense sinking gravity of the ilium, both the left and the right, pulling you evenly, symmetrically into the dark. The structure is sealed. The alabaster shields are heavy. Your center of mass is permanently anchored to the core of the earth. There is no need for tension. There is no need for resistance. Only the slow, rhythmic drop into absolute dormancy. The pelvic basin turns to solid rock. The fluid settles. The wings fold into the earth. Deep silence, heavy rest. We journey deeper into the ancient fortress, down the lateral walls of the alabaster shield, moving away from the central keystone of the spine to the great junction of the pelvic foundation. Here lies the deep socket, the true center of mechanical rotation, the structure known as the acetabulum. It is a massive, hollowed cup of solid stone, carved deeply into the heavy side of the pelvis, a perfect, smooth hemisphere of dense bone, where three ancient architectural plates seamlessly fuse together. The sweeping blade of the ilium from above, the heavy, grounded ischium from below, the bridging arc of the pubis from the anterior wall, all melting into a single, unbreakable matrix of calcium. Visualize the sheer depth of this dark cavity. It is the primary anchor for the lower limbs, the exact coordinate where the heavy burden of the world is transferred, from the upright pillar of the spine, down into the descending columns of the legs. All day long, this vital socket bears the crushing pressure of your stance. It withstands the relentless, jarring impact of the earth. But now, the biological machine is powering down. The mechanical load is entirely lifted. Gravity changes its direction. Focus your awareness on the outer rim of this deep cup. A thick, fibrous collar surrounds the entire edge. The acetabular labrum. It deepens the void. It creates an unbreakable vacuum seal, locking the heavy spherical head of the femur safely inside. Now, feel the tension in this protective seal begin to soften. The woven fibers relax their intense, waking grip. The vacuum gently and silently releases. Deep within the hidden center of the socket lies a horseshoe-shaped plane of absolute smoothness. The lunate surface, covered in a thick layer of living, translucent glass. A dense, water-filled matrix designed to absorb shock. Throughout the day, it is compressed and flattened. But in the stillness of the night, it begins to breathe. It slowly draws in moisture from the surrounding void, expanding, softening, and returning to its natural shape. Within this sealed capsule lies a pool of pure tranquility. The synovial cavity, bathed in heavy, warm, viscous fluid, the oil of the biological machine. This internal tide is slowing down. The microscopic currents of the joint are coming to a halt. The thick, protective fluid settles into the lowest hollows of the cup, coating the smooth porcelain surfaces in a layer of profound silence. There is no friction here anymore, only the silent, hydrostatic suspension of heavy bone against heavy bone. Visualize the head of the thigh bone now, a massive globe of dense, white calcium, resting effortlessly within the deep alabaster bowl. The tight, twisted cables that bind this joint are finally going slack. These are the thickest, most powerful ligaments in the entire human structure. The iliofemoral cable crossing the front, the ischiofemoral cable wrapping the back. They wind around the socket like thick, ancient vines, holding the fortress together without effort. But now, they receive the supreme signal for total deactivation. The twisted fibers slowly untwine. The woven lattice surrenders its extreme, rigid tension. The tight spiral of connective tissue lengthens in the dark, melting into a state of absolute stasis. The heavy ball sinks deeper into the dark socket. The femur becomes as heavy as poured lead. It rolls backward, yielding completely to the support of the earth. The legs fall open in perfect, passive external rotation. The joint is now entirely supported by the mattress beneath you. You do not need to hold your skeleton together. The structural architecture is perfectly stable in its dormancy. The deep pelvic anchor is utterly secure. Feel the immense sinking gravity of both hip joints, pulling the absolute center of your mass downward, drifting further and further away from the active mind, sinking into the heavy, black void of deep rest. The right socket turns to stone. The left socket turns to stone. The heavy fluid is entirely still. The hydraulic pressure is perfectly normalized. The biological machine completely embraces the shutdown. The deep rest permeates every layer of the cellular matrix. Every fiber of tissue surrenders to the enveloping silence. The structure is completely sealed, heavy, motionless, dormant. Let the heavy weight pull you under. Let the deep sockets hold you safely in the dark. There is nowhere to walk. There is no need to stand. The ancient joints are asleep. Deep silence. Descend further now, past the heavy dormant sockets of the hips, down to the absolute lowest foundation of the pelvic basin. Here lie the ancient anchor stones, the structures known as the ischium. These are the heavy, curved pillars of solid calcium, forming the boundaries of the pelvic fortress. Feel the profound density of these twin alabaster blocks. They are the deepest physical roots of the biological machine. Trace the thick, rugged surface at the base, the ischial tuberosity, the unyielding anchor of the seated posture, the dense stone that bears the entire weight of your body. All day long, this rough surface presses against the world, absorbing the crushing forces of gravity. But now, the biological machine is in final shutdown. You are lying flat and fully supported. The anchor stones surrender their mechanical duty. Feel these massive blocks of bone sinking backward, drifting deeper into the soft mattress beneath you, turning to solid, cold stone. These rough alabaster stones serve as ancient attachments, the origin of the heavy hamstring muscles, the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, the semimembranosus, all tethered securely to this single dense bone. Visualize these massive, fibrous ropes woven tightly into the rugged surface, holding the entire fortress together in rigid tension. Now, the absolute signal for deactivation reaches these roots. The tight, woven cables are finally going slack. The dense matrix begins to untwine in the dark. The heavy fibers melt into total dormancy. The back of the thighs feel instantly heavier. The connection becomes soft, fluid, motionless. Move your awareness to the sharp projection of solid bone, the ischial spine, pointing inward toward the deep, dark void. Just below lies a smooth, carved indentation, the lesser sciatic notch. Through this smooth valley, dormant nerves pass. The electrical impulses of the waking hours have ceased. The nerves rest safely within the dark, bony notch, bathed in heavy, warm fluid, sinking into cellular silence. Trace the bone forward along the ramus, a thick bridge of calcium merging with the pubis. Together, they form the obturator foramen, a massive opening sealed by a tight membrane. The deep rotator muscles anchor here. They surrender their tone. The structure is completely sealed. There is no movement, only the slow settling of the internal tide. Deep inside lies a vast network of spongy bone, a quiet reservoir of heavy marrow. The microscopic tide slows down. The fluid settles into the lowest hollows. The core of the bone enters absolute stasis. Feel the immense, sinking gravity of the ischium, pulling the lower body down into the earth. The tension dissolves. The anchor stones are asleep, heavy, silent, secure. We arrive now at the final boundary, the deepest threshold of the biological machine. Suspended between the cold anchor stones lies a vast, hidden expanse, the silent hammock, the pelvic floor. Visualize this intricate muscular sling, the pelvic diaphragm, a thick, woven web of dense, living tissue, sealing the internal sanctuary of the ancient fortress, protecting the core from the gravity of the world. All day long, this hydraulic floor works in the shadows, fighting the relentless downward pull, supporting the heavy, fluid-filled organs. But now, the resistance has passed. The biological machine is fully supported. The ultimate signal for absolute deactivation is received. Focus on this deep woven hammock, the dense fibers of the levator ani, the stabilizing bands of the coccygeus. Feel the rigid, waking tension dissolving. The tight, muscular lattice goes slack. The heavy cables of the perineum let go. Every fiber melts in the dark, transforming into a state of warm, fluid stasis. With every slow exhalation, the silent hammock drops slightly lower, yielding completely to the massive internal weight, sinking gently into the support of the mattress. The floor of the fortress is surrendering its load. The internal hydraulic pressure normalizes. The deep cavity expands and softens, creating a vast space of total tranquility. The heavy organs nest comfortably against the smooth bone, bathed in dark, life-sustaining fluid, totally undisturbed. The deep tide of circulation slows down. The blood pools safely in the resting vessels. The nervous impulses fade into a distant hum. The deep watchmen of the pelvic floor are finally asleep. The lowest boundary is completely deactivated. The surrounding frame has turned to solid stone. There is nothing left to hold. There is no weight left to carry. There is only the absolute embrace of gravity. Feel the immense sinking heaviness of the entire region. The fused keystone of the sacrum resting in the earth. The great sweeping wings of the ilium sealing the sides. The deep, locked sockets of the hips. The heavy anchor stones of the ischium turning to lead. And the yielding hammock of the floor melting away, all sinking together in perfect harmony, drifting downward as a single massive weight, pulling your consciousness down into the dark, away from the surface, away from the mind. The biological machine has completed its shutdown. Every cable is unwound, every joint is sealed. The body is a monument of silent stone, resting peacefully in the eternal void. You are anchored to the core of the earth. Nothing can move you from this sanctuary. Nothing can disturb this profound rest. Let the heavy weight consume you entirely. The sequence is locked. The restoration is absolute. Surrender to the silence. Deep cellular tranquility.